piggybacking off of that, really don't worry if you're a computer science major, because I am gonna let you all know that I started out a little bit differently. Give you a bit of a history. I, a few years back, graduated from Penn State with a dual degree in philosophy and classics and ancient Mediterranean studies. A lot of specialties up on the board, as you can see. Very proud of it and had a great time in school. But one question always popped up as I went to a lot of interviews and talked to a lot of professionals out in the space. What do you do with that? Now, I thought I had it all planned out. I wanted to go to grad school, keep on studying, all that kind of stuff, but things don't always turn out that way. And as I transitioned into the professional world and had to get a real job, this became a hard problem, as one of my favorite philosophers would say. So now I am actually a working data professional, and ironically, there is another question that keeps coming up for me. How'd that happen? So there is a professional transition that I had to go about doing, and kind of like Chris was saying, there are different ways you can get there, and a lot of it doesn't always happen through school. I'm sure nobody in this room thinks that they're going to graduate from college and never take another class in their life. That's just not how it works anymore. So it's really easy for everybody who has been through a transition like this, 5, 15 years down the road, to kind of sugarcoat it and say how it's the best thing they ever did, no regrets, anything like that. So just for a little bit of truth out there, it's not that easy. And there are a few things that you're going to have to mentally prepare yourself for before you actually go about making that leap. And part of the purpose of the Free Code Camp organization and other things that are out there are kind of to mentally prepare you and set you up with other people that are going through this transition with you. So I feel like everybody in this room at one point or another has kind of had these thoughts too. You've gone into a room, into a talk, you've read something online, and it just feels like everybody is 10 years ahead of you. They always know what they're talking about, and you're never going to get there. Or you're just in mountains of work, in over your head, and you're saying no to everything that you used to be able to say yes to. And finally, you're getting into your first job interviews or looking at job boards, whatever it is, and realizing that the job that you want isn't exactly what you had before in terms of pay, in terms of stature, whatever it is. So yeah, it's not that clean cut. And that can be a little bit frustrating. But it's all worth it because you decided to make this transition for a reason, and it's something that you really want. And it's not for tomorrow, it's for 20 years down the road when you actually are going to get where you want to go. So how do you get there? I find that the most important thing is to find a mentor, somebody who's actually been there before and somebody who can walk you through it. Because one of the biggest issues is going from point A to point C. You always miss point B. And somebody who's there to walk you through what you're missing is one of the most important things. So what I actually did was I cold called people. I sent out emails to people out there in the data world who seem to have it all together, who could point me towards conferences, towards organizations that I might not knew existed. And more importantly, they kept me going when I felt like I just didn't know what I was doing. They were able to tell me, hey, this conference is happening, you should attend, even though you don't know what's going on. Or go to Project Euler and see if you can figure out challenges 1 through 5, and I'll help you through when you get stuck. Things like that. They're just there to include you when you don't even know what to ask for. And they're also there to make sure that you put in the time even when you might not feel like you have what it takes to get there, because you're looking at them, you're looking around at everybody else. Every job that you want says 5 years of experience, that type of thing. We all know what that feels like. It's frustrating. So there are a lot of resources out there for everybody who doesn't know where to start. There are formalized programs, there are master's programs, there are classes that you can take on campus, but kind of what I was saying at the beginning, I'm a big proponent of MOOCs, online classes, free programs, because what you learn now is not what you're going to need to know in 5 years. So anybody who graduates today and thinks that that's all they're going to need for their job, they're probably going to be doing online learning in a year or two anyway as well. So I'm a big proponent of learning what you need to know from an online program as well. And this is just a sampling too. Everybody's heard of Code School, edX, coding boot camps, of course Free Code Camp is up there. But there are other programs too probably that I haven't heard of and that everybody here has experience with too. So once you have a little bit of a knowledge of where you want to go, you've put in some time, it's important to get your foot in the door and start actually putting that to practice. Now, I'm a big proponent of taking an internship. That might not be the best course for everybody because there are some drawbacks, and I will give you that. But the best thing I think about an internship is that after you are actually working in an organization, you can say that you're a working professional. And it might not be, the pay that you want or the organization that you're actually looking for long term, but once you're in the door, you get past this hurdle. Because everybody's been there on the job hunt where you're looking at where you actually want to be and they're saying, hey, have you worked in the field? Show me what you can do. And the internship gets you there. The biggest problem, I think, that people trying to start in a technical field encounter is that they never think that they're ever going to be ready to do what they need to do. And that's a real issue because, yeah, there's always going to be something more to learn. We all have a technical ceiling. So everybody's been on that technical interview where you get a question that stumps you. But that doesn't mean that the person who asked you thinks that you're stupid because you couldn't answer. That just means that they're trying to figure out where you're at right now, because eventually that person is probably going to be a mentor as well. They've mentored somebody before, and more importantly, they were in your shoes at one point as well. The coolest thing about starting off in a non-technical discipline is that you actually have a resume that is not your technical resume. And you can bring that in with you too. You can say, I have a set of soft skills that I can bring to the table. I understand marketing, or I understand customer relations. I know business administration. In my case, I know medical philosophy and cognitive science. However, that might help me. A lot of people do appreciate that you bring something else to the table. And they are willing to give you a chance because you're something different and there's something more to you that brings a well-rounded perspective to their team. So it is something that I would encourage everybody to bring out in their resume, that, hey, I might have a real knack for writing reports or talking to external stakeholders in your organization. Something like that that shows that you're not just a walking command line, even though you might be that too. So to bring it all together, after you've been through the transition process and you're somewhat ready to apply for that first real job. You've probably put in a lot of hours. You have a ton of new certificates, some mentors you don't want to let down, and it is kind of hard to make that leap to actually putting yourself out there. But the most important thing that I would say to keep in mind is that at that point you have to make it count. You have to remember why you put in all that time. So be intentional about the jobs that you take from there on out, because you don't want to find yourself in a position again 10 years down the road thinking, I need another transition. Why did I do this again? So put yourself in the cycle, become a mentor, keep learning, and be intentional about your moves.